stopping once. If he stays out much longer, that could well be the case. He's coming up behind the new Grand Prix driver, Max Parnis, the Italian in the Arrow's heart, who has replaced Gianni Morbidelli.
Well, I'm just beginning to wonder whether or not Benetton's tactics go as far as trying to confuse us, because having been playing around with the refueling nozzle, we've got some of the mechanics with their balaclavas on, the fireproof goggles, and now they seem to have walked away from it. So it looks, it doesn't look at the moment as if another fuel stop for Schumacher is imminent, but they tend to keep themselves, they tend to keep cagey about their plans. Having said that, it looks, we're with Coulthard now, and Lacey is ahead, and this is going to be very, very frustrating for David Coulthard, because again, he's been much quicker than Lacey for most of the time. Here is a possible chance to get by there into Stoke. This is the point, this is the most likely opportunity. However, it does look as if Coulthard is now destined, that's one of the Pacifics that's off there. Coulthard is destined to follow Lacey unless he can find a way by for another 18 or so laps.
It's Montemini, I think. But anyway, as we ride with David Coulthard, who is now in 5th position, the race order on lap 25 out of 61 is Michael Schumacher, not having stopped, is 7.8 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, who of course has stopped. Johnny Herbert is still 3rd, having stopped and rejoined in front of this battle that we're looking at. Lacey 4th and Coulthard 5th. And up into 6th position, into the points, comes Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Sauber Ford. And here is some exclusive news for your ears alone. Ford are to introduce a V10 cylinder Grand Prix engine next year, and an updated one V8 for this year in Hockenheim. Meantime, there is Lacey 4th, followed by Coulthard in 5th position.
Right, well, I'm thinking now, actually, looking at what's going on in that Benetton pit, that they are indeed getting ready for a pit stop for Michael Schumacher, but not with a tremendous sense of urgency. We're now at lap, he's done 24 laps, this will be his 25th lap, this is a 60-lap race, 1/3 distance would have been 20 laps. And I'm now pretty sure that what we're looking at is a single stop for Michael Schumacher. I think it'll happen in the next 2 laps, and as we originally wondered, one stop round about lap 26, 27, 28 would fit the picture of the morning warm-up times, and that's going to really mean that the race is going to take a fascinating twist, because Hill is committed to making 2 stops. He's currently 7.8 seconds behind Schumacher. Let's see, this is Schumacher, he comes past that Benetton pit. There, the Benetton pit signal, he has his helmet as his recognition sign for the pit board, and it'll be either the end of this lap or the one after. I think Schumacher will come in for his one and only stop, and that will then put him some 30 seconds, a bit longer, because he'll spend longer in the pits. In fact, he'll probably spend 12 or 13, 12 seconds at rest, I would think, putting in more fuel, because he's got to go, if I'm right, he's got to go a bit more than half distance on the fuel that he'll put into that car.
And should that be so, it will mean that Michael Schumacher was driving a pretty storming race, to put it mildly, keeping up with Jean Lacey, with Schumacher having a much heavier fuel load. He's being caught by Damon Hill at the moment on lap 26 out of 61, but by very little. The gap now is 7.6 seconds between Schumacher leading, Hill second, 8.6 seconds according to that, and they're updating the lap. There's some information a bit more recent than ours, in which case Schumacher is maintaining the gap. Is going to be very, very close indeed when Hill comes in and goes out.
Yes, as we still watch David Coulthard trying to find a way past Jean Lacey in vain today. Let's just hope that he doesn't get too impetuous. And again, this is coming into Stoke Corner. That is the most likely overtaking opportunity. That's why he was so close coming up to Club Corner. But Damon Hill is actually now closing by about 0.4 of a second. He's not quite taking half a second off that leader, Michael Schumacher. And we should bear in mind that Hill's car is actually quite a bit heavier than Schumacher's at the moment, because Hill is only some 4 or 5 laps in from taking on his fuel load, whereas Schumacher is going to have to come in within the next 2 or 3 laps. So his fuel load is virtually empty, therefore his car is very light. But on the debit side, he does have still, despite having a car that's light, he's also got worn-out tyres, relatively worn-out tyres, whereas Hill's are fresh. So it's probably a fairly even comparison between the two.
You watch Sean Lacey, who is 4th, David Coulthard challenging him 5th. And in Canada, of course, Lacey was David Coulthard's the cause of David's downfall on the second lap. Alesi was pushing him so hard that David Coulthard spun out of the race. So revenge would be sweet for the young Scotsman from Twynham if he could get past the Ferrari. But we're on lap 27 now. Things are comparatively static at the moment, but they won't be for very much longer, with Michael Schumacher now 9.3 seconds ahead. He's pulled out another 0.8 of a second over the heavier Williams Renault of Damon Hill, who is second. Johnny Herbert, with that superb pit stop, still remains in third position, ahead of Alesi, 7.5 seconds ahead of Alesi, who is fourth. And you know how close Coulthard is in fifth position to Alesi. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is still seventh, is still sixth. Mark Blundell going well in the other McLaren, going extremely well. He's been in the points twice this year in a situation when he didn't even expect to be racing in 1995, having lost his seat for Tyrrell, but then he got the McLaren drive when Mansell decided he was going to race no more in Formula One, this year anyway. And Blundell is seventh, Barrichello is eighth, Parnis is ninth, Martini is 10th, Max Parpis, incidentally not Parnis, is in 11th place, and Luca Badoer in the Minardi is 12th. And the leaders have lapped everybody up to Rubens Barrichello, who is 8th in spite of his penalty stop.
And Schumacher is really charging. He's using up these last few laps with his light fuel load. He's pulled out 2.5 seconds over Damon in the last 2 laps. Damon was 7.5 seconds behind Schumacher on lap 25 and is now 10.1, as we've seen. So this is really looking very, very exciting indeed. It's going to be close, and I'm sure that at this stage the Williams team are on the radio to Damon. He will have been very well aware by now that Schumacher is on a one-stop strategy. So the message is, Damon, charge.
And back with Coulthard again. Damon will be thinking coolly about the tactical implications of the fact that Schumacher is going to be making one stop, it would seem to us, and that he has got to come in a second time, and that in spite of the fact that he got a 20-second lead over Schumacher, that has been eroded to half that now. And of the top 6, only 2 have not come in. Those 2 are Michael Schumacher, who's leading the race, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is in 6th position, because Hill 2nd, Herbert 3rd, Alesi 4th, Coulthard 5th, have all been in to take on new tyres and fuel. And I think personally that this race is giving the lie to the people who say that the pit stops decrease the interest in Grand Prix racing. There is a danger if they're out there all the time, non-stop for the whole race, that there is going to be a boring procession with nobody passing anybody. At least with these pit stops, they are passing. It may be that they're passing when they're stationary in the pit lane, but the fact is that a new race is being created in effect all the time, and the modern Grand Prix is a series of 3 sprints. The cars are at their lightest. The drivers have to be supremely fit to be driving at 10/10 virtually for the whole race, whereas before the tactics used to be very, very different. You pay your money and you take your choice, but that's my opinion. And that is Jean-Christophe Bouillon, the Frenchman in the Sauber Ford, which, as I said, is to have an updated engine at Hockenheim. He's in 14th place. He's the Williams test driver, so he gets a lot of Grand Prix racing and testing one way and another with Williams and with Sauber, and he's being caught and will soon be lapped by the 3rd place Benetton of Johnny Herbert. Now here's Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's the ex-Mercedes-Benz sports car driver. He is in 6th position. A lot of people say that he is as quick as Schumacher. He's not as steady as Schumacher, but he's already been in the points 3 times this year, with Argentina and at Monaco and at the San Marino Grand Prix. And sadly, the Sauber is just not up to his talent. The engine's good, we know that, because the Ford V8 engine, Zetec, which propels his Sauber, propelled the Benetton, which won the championship last year. We're back again with Coulthard, lap 30. This is the half-distance lap, and he is still 5th behind Alesi's Ferrari, which you see in front of him.
And this is looking another very, very impressive Schumacher-Benetton demonstration. Schumacher continues to eke out that lead over Damon Hill. It's now 11.5 seconds. But let's just consider what's going to happen, because Schumacher must come in the next 2 or 3 laps. I know I've been saying that, but it really has to happen in the next lap or two. When he does so, he's now got his 11-second, let's say call it a 10-second lead over Damon Hill. He's going to lose roughly 30 seconds coming into the pits. So he's going to end up coming out of the pits second. Hill's going to go ahead. Schumacher will be 20 seconds behind. Schumacher will be 20 seconds behind then Hill, and then Hill then has to come in for a second pit stop, and that's going to put Hill 10 seconds behind Schumacher with all pit stops completed, leaving Hill with his lighter fuel load to then try and charge up and then try and get by. And that's the new driver, Papis, Massimiliano Papis, who's taken over from Morbidelli in the footwork, having gone off his first Grand Prix. No great surprise there. It's going to be very, very close. That's the bottom line of it, between Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher, and Hill is going to have to race for it. There are the Benetton team getting ready.
Indeed, and the man they're getting ready for is there. It's Michael Schumacher, the race leader. He's 12 seconds ahead of Damon Hill. He's coming up towards the pit lane where he will peel off. Steady as a rock in the Benetton. Now he's coming up to Abbey, the left-hander. Then there's the complex of Priory, Brooklands, and here is Max Papis. Look at his left rear. It's punctured, and it's about to come off, I suspect, come off the rim altogether as he turns into the right-hander. His right front wheel is right off the ground, and now he's collapsed his left front suspension. Unsurprisingly, he's totally out of control, ploughs across the gravel and out of the race.
And I think Papis may have hit something before that, because for the left front suspension to break like that, and indeed to have that look like a damaged rim, as in comes Schumacher.
Now we're going to see what happens. Will Damon Hill get through? Of course he will. The gap is 12 seconds as Michael Schumacher, with a lot of practice having done this, calmly comes up to exactly the right spot. The Benetton, there are 18 of them working on that car, on the 4 wheels and tyres, on the fuel line, and there is Damon Hill. And Damon Hill takes the lead in the British Grand Prix, but as Schumacher exits after a 13-second stop, now that's a long pit stop because he's had to take on a lot of fuel. He came in on lap 32, so he's come in at almost exactly half distance in this 61-lap race. And Damon Hill takes the lead, but he has still got to come in again. Damon at Stowe Corner. Damon at Stowe as Schumacher exits the pit lane. So Damon is leading by as near as makes very little difference, half a lap. That's 1.5 miles on this 3-mile lap. And there's Michael Schumacher back up to race pace, and he is on his 32nd lap. It's going to be a fascinating finish. All the top 7 men have now come in. In fact, all the top 10 men have come in. Rubens Barrichello has stopped twice, once for fuel and tyres and once for that penalty. And Olivier Panis has done the same thing. Barrichello is in 7th place. And Damon Hill, race leader, there he is on his 32nd lap. Goes through to complete it. Coming up to Woodcote over the grid markings. Now I'll be able to give you the gap. P1, place 1, lap 29 laps to go, that means. He will be getting a countdown now because there is an insurance policy working. They give him signals through his eyes and they give him signals through his ears.
Now that was another immaculate pit stop from the Benetton team, but what we need to watch closely now is the lap times that both Schumacher and Hill are doing, because now the situation is reversed in that Michael Schumacher has the heavy fuel load with the new tyres. Damon Hill has about half a tank of fuel, or certainly has about 50 litres of fuel, so he should be quite a bit quicker on fuel, but his tyres won't be in quite such good condition. Now, Hill's last lap was a 1:30.4, and that was a clear lap, and David Coulthard's still being frustrated there with Jean Alesi in the Ferrari ahead. It's Alesi in 4th, Coulthard in 5th, and we need to follow to see closely what Schumacher does, and Hill would like to think he can try and extend that gap over Schumacher, because when Schumacher was light on old tyres, he was running faster than Hill, a bit heavier on new tyres.
You saw the clouds on that shot, looking back from Damon Hill's car at his head. I'm being a bit of a pessimist, I know, but we must never lose sight of the fact that we've had very changeable weather here at Silverstone through Friday and Saturday, and this morning there are actually a few spots of rain. It could easily happen again, in which case it